Welcome back, guys. Derek here, and I finally got some time in flying this little ET115 version 2. And I've got a lot to say, so let's get started. So, the first thing I want to go over are some of the questions I had while looking for info on this little thing. First off, is it fast? Is it powerful? Yes, it's got plenty of go with the 3 cells. At least with my background, to my thumbs, that's a whole lot of power. But not so much it's uncontrollable. And then flight time. So flight time with the stock battery, I was getting right around 3.5 to 4 minutes. I don't push my batteries real hard though either. I've been running some GNB 550s, and I get about 3.5 solid minutes of some good flight with those. I'm sure it could carry the extra weight of a 650 milliamp, but I like the lighter weight. It's a little easier on the handling, and when you have a crash, it's less mass to break your parts. And it's durable. Speaking of crashes, guys, I really ran this thing through the ringer. Got to showing off for a buddy of mine, and unfortunately didn't hit the record button. I wish I would have, because guys, it took one heck of a beating. The battery was ruined on impact. I'm surprised it didn't catch on fire, but it was just squished. But that's the only damage that really happened. And it was from, I don't know, 30, 40 foot up. I was coming out of a power loop and was a little late getting in the throttle. It hit the ground pretty hard. But tough as nails. So, next thing I want to touch on though. So, yeah, we know it's durable. It flies for a fair amount of time, got lots of power. But if you can't see where in the heck you're going, it's kind of pointless. And I don't know if it was just the camera I got, but it was a bit out of focus. And if you watch the videos, you can actually see it progressively gets worse. And I'm sure that hard impact that killed the battery probably didn't do it any good either. But the camera did fail on me. I was doing a little maintenance on it, checking some things out, and popped the canopy off, popped the camera out of the canopy, and it fell apart in my hands. So I glued it back together. It was still out of focus, so I swapped it out for a different Q231 that I had from the tiny GT8. Incidentally, the camera in the tiny GT8 was okay. It was a lot better than the one that come with this, even though it was the same exact part. So there might be some quality control there. And then speaking of seeing where you're going, we're going to move right into the VTX. Now, the VTX on this thing, it's 100 milliwatt. It's got a nice little dipole. It worked really well, at least for my experience, which is limited compared to some, but great range. Now, if for whatever reason you had a little tumble and the antenna slipped down into the canopy at all, it would just horrendous. You couldn't get a quarter the distance as normal. I don't know what exactly the cause of that was, but I know it was a problem for me. The antenna came off, and it is almost impossible to get that antenna back on that circuit board. I bet you got to be a pretty seasoned soldering hobbyist to get that on without much trouble. So ended up pulling the pad off the VTX, getting it too hot, trying to make it work. Upon disassembly, there is actually quite a pretty unique thing going on there. It actually uses a plate, it looks like, to act as a heat sink, which is cool because it's different. Now, as far as the handling goes, this thing handles pretty good right out of the box. I had no real issues. I noticed a little bit of wandering under high throttle conditions with very limited input. It would kind of bob and weave. And I played a little bit with some of the, which one is it, the air mode setting, and didn't really get any resolution. But it doesn't fly bad. I had a good time. Never made me feel unconfident. Never scared me, I guess would be the word. I will say though, there is some washout. You are going to get some washout under those maneuvers where you're changing direction extremely fast and hard, or dropping out of the sky, which is probably one of the more common prop wash scenarios. But I do plan to update the firmware at least. And the big reason for this, guys, is that I want the turtle mode. I want it to be able to flip itself back over so I can get home. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It does not have the latest, greatest firmware with turtle mode. According to the manual, you update to 3.21 and you can enable it. I've seen a couple videos that say otherwise, so I will keep you guys posted as I progress with this thing. Like I said, I'm getting rid of the VTX. I'm going to get me a little better VTX on there and camera. So those would be my two big recommendations. And then if I had a third one, I would say probably the firmware, but I can't confirm how good that's going to be or how worthwhile that'll be. So there you have it, guys. It's a solid little quad. If nothing else, it is durable. It will take a licking and keep on ticking. So, all right, guys. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you here next time on Prop-Wash FPV.